I'm going into work. It's Monday. There is a ton of news we're going to cover. The censorship has been accelerated. The attempts to try to remove Trump have expanded. And so when I get into the office, I'm just going to go in and make sure that all the articles that I've sent to the crew have been printed and ready. I'll review videos and stories they think are interesting. I'll handle other business issues to keep the operation going. And then I'll go on air. And then after I get off air, I'll then go do more administrative things, cut ads, do things like that. And there's so many attempts to censor us and block us. I've just got to work even harder to make sure we punch through that electronic Berlin Wall. Since I'd graduated from high school in 1993, I was really wanting to get involved in politics because I cared about the issues. I was involved in it because I really cared about the Second Amendment. I cared about property rights. I cared about America. I wanted to be involved. About 1995, that I finally realized, don't try to intern at local radio. Don't try to, go get a job at a local newspaper. Go to Access Television and go on air yourself.
Oh, God, would you think I was awful if I said I didn't like him as a president?
I don't like him as a president.
I think he's a liar, and I think they're all professional liars. And I think that I don't know where they learned to do it. His smug little grin, it just irritates me to no end, and I cannot believe he's running the country. Of course, he's not, but it's just pretty disgusting. They're all a bunch of paid liars.
Listen, I appreciate your call.
Thanks. Bye.
That's a nice lady. Hello, you're on the air.
And so there I was in 1995 in a control room of the Access TV station. I'd taken one class and I went live.
Well, Alex, at 26 years old, is now syndicated to over 40 commercial markets. So he's huge, not to mention that he's on shortwave and the internet. He's been #1 on AOL, numerous times. Last year he won Best of Austin, which is a big honor in the city. Alex is a sensation in what he does. I think he's a new sensation.
I went on and talked like 10 minutes, gave the number out, and they had 10 phone lines, and they just all lit up. And the manager walked in and he said, "Do you want a weeknight show?" And I said, "Sure, I'm ready to go." So I had the #1 show in Austin 2 years running. And by then I was being paid, but I didn't care that we were getting the lion's share of the money. I just cared that we were getting the word out. And suddenly I was on national news, and they were talking about me on The Tonight Show, and all these great things were happening, and they got madder and madder and said, people are putting pressure on us. George Bush is putting pressure on us, the governor then, and Bill Clinton is. And they said, "Listen, Alex, you're very talented, but you need to stop doing politics." And they offered me this big raise and everything, and I said, "Listen, I'll try to integrate some more positive things in, but I'm not going to do that." And a few months later, they fired me.
From his Central Texas Command Center, deep behind enemy lines.
Damn it, I wish they'd just stop. They've got enough power now. But it's the sick stuff they come out with. The United Nations, we got to reduce world population by 80%. It's just how they want us. They want us serfs out there. Oh, like your serfs over in...
And then about 17 years ago, I built my first little studio in South Austin. And about 12 years ago, I moved into this current location that only rented out maybe 5,000 square feet. And we've expanded to over 20,000 square feet now in the same complex. And so it's just been a natural progression. Kind of like a crab outgrows his shell, then he just kind of goes and gets a bigger one, or a snail. And so this place has been an experiment. Basically, it's like a laboratory of how to get around censorship, how to get the truth out, how to reach the people, and how to reboot not just American nationalism, but real Americana. I want to talk about the social media site. My issue is a lot of big sites that are for everybody, which I want to actually be for everybody, not just for conservatives, have kind of a generic name like that. But I was also thinking Freeport always means places where people can pull their ships in without having to pay duty, without being heavily inspected or messed with.
The free speech public square.
Or a digital public square.
Yeah. So, something where it lets people know.
Well, that's a good point. Its slogan has to do with that. All right, guys, let's have a quick finish up. We'll be done, okay? I wouldn't back down. And I went from 200 plus radio stations to about 30-something radio stations in a month or two. And I remember the head of the network, who was a gold company, he bought up the militia network, and he said, I'm going to stand with your First Amendment, but you realize you're going to lose $3 million yourself a year, that's what I was making, and we're going to lose $10 million. And I said, yeah, it's the truth, I'm going to keep saying it. So, I'm not saying I'm proud of that, but I'm not for sale.
My name is Laura Loomer, and I'm a conservative investigative guerrilla journalist. Within a month or so of me being independent, I did one of my most viral videos ever, and that's when I decided to crash the stage of Shakespeare in the Park.
The controversial Shakespeare in the Park production of Julius Caesar will give its final 2 performances this weekend. Last night, the bigger performances happened off stage as 2 protesters denounced the production.
Laura Loomer stormed the stage, interrupting the performance, denouncing the depiction of violence against the right.
It was a big sensation watching my Twitter feed, and I soon became known as one of the most notorious right-wing individuals on Twitter. At the time that this was taking place, people were talking about the Fearless Girl statue and how it was such an iconic representation of the feminist movement. And it was kind of like this message like, yes, I can do anything. And the women who were championing Fearless Girl, many of them themselves were also advocating for things like World Hijab Day. And I draped Fearless Girl in a burqa. And I did it while everybody was taking pictures, and I was wearing a MAGA hat, and I was wearing a shirt that had Donald Trump's face on it with my poster that said there's no such thing as an Islamic feminist. And the backlash was crazy. I live streamed it. Then the news articles started to come out, right? And these left-leaning organizations and their fake news reporters started writing hit pieces on me.
Here in Newtown, Connecticut, the site today of a mass shooting, and this time gunfire aimed at elementary school children.
They're reporting multiple fatalities involved in the shooting at the elementary school.
There are 27 victims, 20 children, 7 adults.
Alex Jones repeatedly claimed that the slaughter of innocent children and teachers at Sandy Hook Elementary School never happened. His baseless allegations aren't just offensive, they're dangerous. But here's the thing. Alex Jones isn't going away.
I didn't kill the children at Sandy Hook. And I think Sandy Hook happened. But definitely it's been used as a political tool. And I think that's what the public saw early on, was how it was grabbed by these people and used. So the public said, hey, we've been lied to a lot. We don't believe this. And I said, well, let's look at that, which is everybody's right to do. And I did say, like 4 years ago, I think this really happened. I think Sandy Hook happened, but I think what's come out of it now politically is fake.
In 2011, consumers spent nearly $25 billion on video games. Advocates blame those games and violent movies for sparking mass shootings.
Walmart has stopped online sales of the Bushmaster rifle used in Newtown.
A proposed ban on assault weapons, limiting ammunition clip size.
For some longtime allies of the gun lobby, this week was a tipping point.
Never in my life did I ever think that we would have 20 children slaughtered.
As every politician says after every shooting, what I would like is your legislation, not your thoughts and prayers.
And why the hell can you buy a weapon of mass destruction? That's what it is. That's the first thing that should be gone.
I was used as the straw man to build up this big bad guy and then to sell my silencing so that once the public took the bait, took the hook in their mouth, then everyone else would fall.
So this is the Leather Stalking Trail. It's only about 2.5 miles and goes around this lake. As of the filming of this video, the YouTube channel associated with Gavin McInnes has been taken down.
It connects to another trail that's about 15 miles. It's funny how you think New York is just completely urbanized, but we're only about 40 minutes from the city, from Grand Central.
Gavin McInnes is out of a job, and that is because he's a crazy, violent white supremacist.
You feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, and you can see for miles. It's incredible.
And now these guys are going to lose their livelihoods because that's somehow racist?
McInnes denies his group is racist and likens it to the Knights of Columbus and the Shriners. McInnes himself is a well-known provocative right-wing commentator.
So, two neighbors put up these signs that the leader of a hate group lives in our town. Oh no. So they put up the signs on my lawn that said hate has no home here, instead of talking to me, of course. And being known as a Nazi is the same as being known as a pedophile in today's society. It just keeps getting worse. I mean, they vandalized my car, and they screamed obscenities at my house and planned a vigil on my front lawn, and just ridiculous shit. Where am I going now? Oh yeah. But you know that I'm also getting doxxed by Antifa and getting death threats, and I'm going to the FBI and they're saying this one is believable. So, you know, I had armed guards in my front room for a while, like cop buddies. I'd pay a few bucks to stay up all night. I did it a few times.
Gavin McInnes?
Yeah, they
Proud Boys guy?
They took him off of everything.
Yeah, he's off of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's that. And with him, it's even.
But he's like a hate speech guy, isn't he? He's like fucking inciting violence and whatever.
He's now what you said. See, you don't know him, but you said he's the hate speech guy. You said he's that guy. He's that hate. That's how everybody's going to see him.
Right.
So like, if you found out your sister was dating him,
the violent racist thug and fraudster known as Tommy Robinson is stirring up racial hatred, organising violent, thuggish crimes around the country, setting up the EDL and everything that comes with it. Crosses a line.
Tommy Robinson fancies himself an activist and journalist known for provocative statements.
A villain to many, but a hero to some.
Tommy Robinson's fascists are on the march. They're trying to use a wave of xenophobia, bigotry, and anti-Muslim hatred.
Tommy Robinson is not a benign person. Actually, what he's trying to do is divide the community in Britain, and actually for us to take such a light view of it, I think is dangerous.
A loathsome, obnoxious, repellent individual. And I make no bones about my view being the same as his on that front.
Unless you have truth, if you have a corrupt media, you don't have a democracy. If you have a media controlled with fake news, there is no democracy. There will be alternatives that will grow, but I think it's a very dangerous line they're going down. Because when people see no other platform for their voice, I used to say it with demonstrations, demonstration was like a pressure valve. People are building up, they're angry, they're frustrated, and then they see someone speaking their language and giving them a platform. You take that away, what other choice do you leave people?
Society is a pressure cooker. And people like Owen Wilson, Laura Loomer, me, Alex Jones, Milo Yiannopoulos, they are all little valves. And Lenny Bruce talked about this. They're valves on the pressure cooker. Psst, 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 letting off steam.
There's a lot of anger out there, especially with current situation in this country, across Europe. And people's faith in the media is at an all-time low. And the more they do now to try and censor the people who are the alternative, the more frustration they will build against them.
I don't think we've seen division like this in America since Vietnam. But at least during Vietnam, the right and the left could talk. They can't talk anymore.
I literally had grown men trying to attack me as I was putting a burqa, literally just a sheet, right? A sheet, that's what a burqa is, it's a black sheet. And I put it over this statue, and people were so upset. And they were trying to hit me, they were pulling me away.
To the routine violence of left-wing activists at protests.
Their clashes with neo-Nazis shut down the UC Berkeley campus in February over a planned appearance by far-right figure Milo Yiannopoulos. They fought with white supremacists a year ago in Sacramento. 5 people were stabbed.
German police say they used water cannon and batons to disperse left-wing protesters who became violent.
This woman pepper sprayed during a local TV interview.
Cars are once again on fire. All the police have to go on is that they're suspected left-wing extremists.
Some have run straight to attack me, and they've gone to attack my camerawoman and my cameraman. This isn't broad daylight.
Ready, Alex? Here he goes on his cue. 3, 2, roll the video.
You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
YouTube's gone. It's all gone. They blew it all away in the middle of the night. When you go where our YouTube used to be, you see that they've said this account has been terminated. Starting on August 6th through August 7th, it was a blitzkrieg of censorship, and they decided to deplatform my billions and millions of views and millions of followers off of everything from iTunes to Google to YouTube to Spotify to even discuss our commenting system on InfoWars. I was no longer on those platforms. I couldn't respond. So it was a blur of just, Jones is a white supremacist. Jones beat up a child. Jones is a criminal. Jones
spokesmodel Alex Jones, because it looks like his website InfoWars just lost their war on info.
InfoWars. Alex Jones here. As you probably heard, I was banned from Facebook, Apple, and Spotify.
Twitter gives Alex Jones the boot.
Multiple online platforms have now taken down content associated with Alex Jones and InfoWars.
Several tech giants removed talk show host and conspiracy theorist Alex Jones from their platforms.
You advocate killing one person and millions of fans with dissociative identity disorder, and suddenly everyone loses their sense of humor.
But it wasn't for fake news that Apple banned his podcasts on Sunday. A company spokesperson said it was for hate speech, though they didn't cite a particular piece of content.
CNN's Oliver Darcy is one of the main reporters putting pressure on these social media companies to ban Alex Jones and InfoWars.
In fact, this is the first time that these platforms have taken pretty drastic actions against Alex Jones.
What the fuck? How can I even sit here now and call Alex Jones a conspiracy theorist when our channel just got striked down for even fucking talking about him?
Getting kicked off of YouTube and having all of our work torn down from that site was really upsetting and brutal.
It was all within a span of 2 weeks in the middle of August. And the way Alex puts it is we've kind of become punch drunk to the censorship. We've been putting up with it to some extent for a long time. I mean, they'd shut down the Alex Jones channel, I think 5 or more times previously. We're sending strikes, putting him back on. We've dealt with 30-day Facebook suspensions, 90-day Facebook suspensions. Same thing goes for Twitter. So by the time the full censorship came on, we were already kind of punch drunk to the whole thing.
So me personally, I sort of get depressive in those types of situations where I just go, it's hopeless, we can't do anything, they're too powerful, they just crush us and they don't even care. And it's very upsetting and that they don't, not only do they not care, they would laugh at you if they knew how upset it made you.
I think I described it in the last interview as like a battleship that had come under fire, and that's sort of that's definitely the most appropriate way to describe the atmosphere, as well as personally just a deep sinking feeling of it's all gone. I mean, I had combined just millions and millions and millions of views, tens of thousands of comments and feedback, and it just gets stripped away. It just gets deleted. And no way to save it, no way to look back, no way to say, no, trust me, go look. I've done a lot of work. It's made a big impact. It's like they took away everything, and it's brutal. You roll with the punches.
They saw InfoWars as a dominant, independent, anti-war, pro-human, pro-sovereign, pro-family, populist organization. So they thought first they come for Alex Jones, then when people say, okay, take him off the air, everyone else like dominoes would fall. And now it is any conservative or nationalist that is articulate and smart. It's any leftist that is an establishment that somebody has a beef with at the big tech companies. Thousands of prominent voices have been taken off in the last 6, 8, 9 months since this started. And it's just been an amazing process. And we predicted it was coming, and we knew it was coming. We knew this was coming. That's why we really expanded on TV and radio. And of course, when you're done, they're going to close up shop. And there'll only be a few major media outlets and one centralized system. I told you this was coming.
The night I got banned from Twitter on November 21st, 2018, it was really devastating to me. I mean, I almost couldn't believe what had happened because it just came at such a bad time and such a random time. And just the circumstances surrounding the ban really infuriated me and kind of made me have a meltdown, to be completely honest. You know, I mean, here I am, I hadn't seen my dad in about a year, and he came to visit me for Thanksgiving, and I'm on my way to this event where I was about to hang out with several of my supporters to celebrate, you know, a story I had broken just weeks before about voter fraud in Florida that, you know, was a top hit and was mentioned by Rush Limbaugh, was on Drudge, it was everywhere. And I get banned, right? I sat in my car for a minute and I didn't even want to go to the event. And then my dad was telling me, you know, just calm down, everything's going to be okay. And I just remember my phone blowing up. Neo-Nazi, white supremacist Laura Loomer, Islamophobe Laura Loomer banned from Twitter for anti-Muslim hate speech. Well, that's not true, right? How am I supposed to respond to this? That's why I decided to handcuff myself to Twitter 1 week after I was permanently banned. I had to protest this. When you get banned on Twitter and you're a public figure and people start, you know, just putting out articles about you within minutes of you being banned, accusing you of being a white supremacist, accusing you of being a racist, accusing you of being a bigot, a Nazi, an Islamophobe, how was I supposed to respond to that while being banned?
So I was deplatformed. I couldn't get on any social media and defend myself. And then I got fired. It was like a new thing every day. After October 12th, after that Otoya Yamaguchi thing, I was in the news every single day. Twitter trending every day. And that's not pleasant. You don't want that. So that sucked. And I'm fine financially, and I've been through this a million times. You know, I was pushed out of Vice, I lost my ad agency.
I've been removed from Twitter. I've had my PayPal closed, my website taken down. 5 universities have asked me to come, asked me to speak, and then they've reversed those decisions due to threats and intimidation by far-left organisations. They removed me from PayPal. That affected me with a 70% decrease in the income I had, which gives me the ability to work and operate, which is their intention.
It's kind of ironic because it's a form of fascism, all this war on color, war on questions, war on people being outrageous. I mean, Laura Loomer's made some mistakes. She can be a bull in a china shop. You need a bull in a china shop. You need someone out there mixing it up.
You'll see a video by Yvette Cooper and I think Naz Shah. You'll see them with the CEO of YouTube grilling him about why my videos are being shared.
Despite the fact that videos of Tommy Robinson were cited as part of the online radicalisation of Darren Osborne in the Finsbury Park court case, YouTube continues to promote them videos.
The first 2 videos recommended to me by YouTube, when I just click on, as I've just done this afternoon, I click onto YouTube, the first 2 recommendations are Tommy Robinson videos.
What have you got to say about that?
We are working to make sure that videos that promote hate or promote violence, if they violate our policies, are removed from the platform.
That is government interfering with private companies in order to censor what the public are hearing. It's fascism.
I don't really see much being done about social media censorship. I mean, if you go back to September 5th when Jack Dorsey and executives from Facebook were brought in to Congress to testify about social media censorship, and Jack Dorsey tells Steve Scalise, no, you know, we don't censor conservatives. My father's a Republican and my mother is a Democrat, and even the Republicans didn't really seem to want to do much about the censorship of their own constituents. These representatives just kind of took Dorsey's answer and didn't really challenge him any bit whatsoever. And it just infuriated me to the point where I felt the need to stand up during the congressional hearing. And I called him out for it. And I said, "You're a liar, Mr. Dorsey. You are a liar. Your employees were caught on camera by Project Veritas admitting that you shadow ban and censor conservatives."
President Donald Trump, help us. Please help us, Mr. President, before it is too late, because Jack Dorsey is trying to influence the election, to sway the election so that the Democrats can steal the election. That is why he is censoring and shadow banning conservatives. You are a liar, Jack Dorsey. You are a liar, Jack Dorsey. Stop the bias. We are conservative Americans, not Russian bots, Jack Dorsey.
Not a single representative mentioned the fact that Twitter employees were caught on camera, censoring and admitting to censoring conservatives. I mean, in other words, Jack Dorsey committed perjury and he got away with it.
And I don't know how to describe it accurately. It's just heavy, heavy, heavy. Make no mistake, we're not in Kansas anymore. We're not in Kansas anymore.
The juice of these pickles is on you, Alex Jones.
I get wanting to punch Alex Jones. Everybody does. But conservatives are much more concerned. The Twitter might be silencing right-wing tweets with something they call shadow banning.
They're private companies with private terms of service.
These private companies.
No private company is legally forced to protect.
Now here's the deal. Twitter is a private company. They're not obligated to publish your every thought.
A lot of people say, you're on Facebook, you didn't pay any money, Facebook kicked you off. It's not your right. And that was definitely true, but the climate has changed. It's like saying, hey, I made it illegal for you to have a computer, but you could still use a typewriter, and you could still hand out little notices to people on the street. And that's not the culture anymore, my friend.
Twitter and Facebook are protected, and they are basically immune to lawsuits brought upon them simply because they are treated as platforms instead of publishers.
The way America communicates is through social media, for better or for worse. That's how we've evolved, and it's such a ubiquitous and integral part of the country that to take away those few platforms is to take away someone's voice, especially when they're in media.
But if you look at their behavior and you look at the evidence that shows that they are censoring people and they are targeting people and they're working with left-wing groups and actual Islamic terrorist organizations to silence people, well, they're picking and choosing, right? So when you're picking and choosing what content is and isn't acceptable, you no longer are a platform, right? You're a publisher.
I think that the social media now is part of everyday life. And they shouldn't be able to censor or delete people from everyday life. That's what they're doing. It's part of society. And if you're deleted off of Facebook, off of Instagram, off of Twitter, off of YouTube, it's like you're removed from society. They shouldn't be allowed to do that.
When these social media monopolies took over the entire culture of the country, then they're utilities now.
70% of employers scan a potential employee's social media profile before even interviewing them. So if you've been banned on social media because you said something controversial, then your potential employer looks for your social media account and it's not there. That's going to raise a lot of red flags. So that's where the self-censorship comes in. If this is going to impact ordinary people's daily lives, where they're afraid to express a political opinion, even amongst their close friends on social media, that's when it gets really insidious in terms of self-censorship and control. So if it gets to the point where you can't have a bank account and you can't get a job because you've been deplatformed and your employer sees that as a red flag, that's where it goes way beyond politics. You can't just build your own social media company. You can't just start your own bank.
They're not doing what they like. They're being pressured into doing it. You can see that. In fact, every single one of my videos that the government were attempting to put pressure on the CEO of YouTube, none of them breached any laws or rules. That's the problem, is that even I was removed from Twitter for stating a fact, a complete fact. Our Home Secretary, Sajid Javid, states the same fact.
It is a statement of fact
a fact that both saddens and angers me, that most of the men in recent high-profile gang convictions have had Pakistani heritage.
Why was I removed? It doesn't breach any hate speech laws or rules. It's just used as an excuse to censor what we're saying.
The point I make over and over again why they're so terrified of somebody like PewDiePie, who isn't really political at all. He's got a fake news persona who has a news show which gets double or triple the amount of views that a Sean Hannity or a Rachel Maddow will on MSNBC or any of those programs. Obviously, he's not overtly political.
I'm Poppy Harlow, and you're watching Pew News, the most news site of all time. J.K. Rowling called me a fascist. Why? I don't... I guess she read it off a headline.
I think the biggest threat to what I do now is not necessarily deplatforming, it's algorithmic manipulation. And this is what Shane Dawson had recently. He came out with a big documentary called Conspiracy Theories with Shane Dawson.
These results are not fanciful.
Now, BuzzFeed, a few weeks prior to this, published an article where they went to YouTube and said, why have you not relegated conspiracy theories in your algorithm? Now, bearing in mind, this documentary by Shane Dawson, who has 20 million subscribers, one of the biggest personalities on YouTube, was a fun little insight into conspiracy theories. It wasn't a dark, investigation of really controversial stuff. It was fun, it was frivolous.
There's a theory that if somebody at Chuck E. Cheese doesn't finish their whole pizza, the employee will take those pieces off the tray and form a new pizza and then reheat it and serve it to a new customer. Nobody's talking about it.
He puts out this documentary, and because YouTube has caved into BuzzFeed, a few days later, by removing conspiracy theory content from recommended videos, which is where you get half of your views on YouTube, for hours, this big Shane Dawson documentary lost out on ad revenue to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars in the first few hours.
One of the largest YouTubers on the platform who's going to release a video that is expected to hit at least 10 million views by the end of the week. It's highly anticipated. Even he has this problem. No one is safe.
Now that it's impacting bigger creators who aren't even political, now they're starting to freak out, they're starting to sound the alarm.
YouTube doesn't do enough to support their community. And then this morning I look at the creator app here, and I saw that this travel vlog, which is the most innocuous vlog ever, it's literally me going to Indonesia to sit down with the president of Indonesia, was demonetized. So they should do a better job looking after their community.
The point is, BuzzFeed can write an article, go to YouTube, and a few days later, I think even 24 hours later, they say, yes, you're right, this is dangerous content, despite the fact that YouTube was basically built by weirdos talking about conspiracy theories back 12, 13, 14 years ago. It was the place for the obscure and the bizarre.
Jimmy Kimmel and mass shooting in Las Vegas. GMC ad. Here's an ad for the new Blade Runner movie. And it's #1 on trending. So they not only made the conscious decision to put ads on this video in contradiction of their own statement, they've also decided to trend it #1. This is called selective enforcement. When you use that broadness to enforce a certain ideology, that's censorship.
We're talking about YouTube, the second biggest search engine in the world, owned by Google obviously. They've broken their own algorithm, their own search engine, to favor the mainstream media, to the point where now you type in Hillary Clinton or Michelle Obama or whatever, and any independent video created by an independent content creator, even if it has millions of views, is buried beneath a wall of mainstream media, which shows that they're manipulating the algorithm, and eventually that is going to cost people elections.
Here's a graph of the newspaper ad revenue from digital and print, showing decrease of revenue in the media. Oh, okay, so Wall Street is losing influence and income. I wonder who's gaining that right now.
The only way they can draw ad revenue is through rage bait, is through attacking popular people with huge audiences, which is what we saw with PewDiePie and the Wall Street Journal, and in many other cases after that.
So,
All right, so for me personally, getting kicked off of YouTube and having all of our work torn down from that site was really like upsetting and brutal, because I'd worked here for a little less than 2 years at that point, and it really felt like they just ripped away 2 years of your life and stole just millions of views, a lot of stuff that I was really proud of, and a lot of going through the comments and seeing what people were saying. It really felt like they just like ripped a chunk of your heart out when they do that to you.
Every single day, I wake up, the first thing I do before I talk to anyone, before I turn on my phone, is go on my YouTube channel and make sure it's still there. Go on my Twitter account, make sure it's still there, to the point mentally where before I even check the news or interact with the world in any way, I check if my YouTube channel is still there. I do that every day now.
Yeah, it's exhausting. This is not a lifestyle for people who are weak-minded. I mean, I'll be completely honest. When I got banned from Twitter and I lost my 265,000 followers, and I got banned from GoFundMe, I got banned from Facebook, I didn't just get depressed, I felt straight up suicidal. I mean, when you are in this industry and you lose your income, you're completely dependent on social media to pay your bills, you have no way to, counter the smears and the lies that the fake news media post about you. You get death threats. You have, individuals in mainstream media who you used to admire mocking you. People on your side who you would expect to defend you aren't defending you. You feel demoralized, right? I mean, in this day and age, it's not as simple as, oh, well, I'm going to quit Twitter and I'm going to go work in the real world. Where am I going to work? Who's going to hire me, right? I mean, I can't go into the real world and just get a regular job now that I'm banned on Twitter, right? I can't do that because the left has, created this narrative that I'm a Nazi, that I'm a white supremacist. And anybody in the real world, if I were to say, I don't want to be Laura Loomer, the conservative journalist, I want to be Laura Loomer, a regular person, I could not live in regular society because the left has depersoned me the same way that they have depersoned Alex Jones and Roger Stone and Milo Yiannopoulos and many others, right? And it's depressing. It makes you want to kill yourself.
We were winning. We're losing. We were winning, Antifa was over, the culture wars had been won, it was time to gloat. We were we were winning the meme war, everyone was laughing. And then you get depersoned to the point where you don't exist. Like Laura Loomer had to leave New York. She's living in a place I don't think I can even say, across from a police station so they can get there fast. Steven Crowder's had to move many times. Dana Lash has had to move. And when these people move, they don't make it a slow decision. They have to pack up in the middle of the night. I'm going to have to move. Tommy Robinson's has to move, and he has done so several times.
I think that very soon, at a time soon, then the relocation of my family will be needed, probably to another country. I think that time's coming, because essentially they're there what I've had to have. They're the thoughts I've had to have. They're the discussions I've had to have. Is it safe? No, it's not. Is it safe even from the government? No, it's not. It's not like we're just worrying about terrorists coming and kill us. In fact, my biggest fear is what the establishment are going to do. And the reality is, I have 3 young children and a wife. It's not just me who's at risk.
Part of me, the selfish part, wishes I'd never met Donald Trump.
Fantastic business. I don't know if you can see that thing right up there.
We can.
But it's doing great business. I hope your audience goes out and buys it as Christmas gifts and everything else. And I just want to finish by saying your reputation's amazing. I will not let you down. You will be very, very impressed, I hope. And I think we'll be speaking a lot.
Being sucked into that whole vortex it was like selling your soul. Everything I did, and everything I was, and everything I was trying to do, at that point, didn't matter how diverse it was, didn't matter how it was multifaceted. It all became that at that point. So Trump came to get my populist audience, and then he did that. The Democrats saw it as a threat. They attacked it and said that I was Donald Trump, thinking that would hurt him. It made Trump stronger. It made him win the election. And so they understand that Donald Trump is InfoWars and that I'm Donald Trump now. And it's like a ring of doom. We've been merged together into this thing, and they're obsessed with it. If I'd had a target on my back before, when I signed on to promote America's resurgence, to promote Donald Trump, all the attacks I'd been through before were like boot camp. This was the real battle. And that's when it got crazy.
The future definitely worries me. I mean, I'm 25 years old and the left has already, tried to demoralize me. They have taken away my voice. They've taken away my platform. They're trying to get me banned from making an income. I mean, I may be trending and I may be making a lot of waves and getting a lot of news coverage, but there are days when I wonder to myself, am I ever going to be able to have a normal family? Am I going to be able to pay my rent? Are banks soon going to be telling me that I can't have a bank account because of my views, right? Am I going to be able to live in America? If we don't fight back and if we don't do something soon, I'm worried that we may fall. We may lose what makes this country great, and that is the fact that we have free speech, right? We have the First Amendment. That is what makes this country, the United States of America, the greatest country in the world. And currently, before our eyes, it's all slipping away.
So what's my day now? My day now is working out, getting on the phone, going on nature hikes, and watching Tucker Carlson on Fox. It's funny when you've sort of been made into a pariah. You have to start your life anew and reboot. Yeah, so this is my life now. I mean, I lost my job, I lost my social media platforms, I lost my vocation in a sense. But I guess my future is lawfare. Yeah, definitely the SPLC has definitely successfully made me into a pariah. And my neighbors think that they're living next to David Duke. And that's the incredible power of the narrative, where they can come up with a concept and say, this guy's evil, that guy's evil, and it works. So that's the life of a deplatformed man. My wife suffers. She doesn't want confrontation. My kids suffer. They don't want to be socially ostracized. But do I ever regret any of it, even for a second? That's a great question. And I wonder about that. Like with Vice, those guys confronted me about some of my more controversial statements, and I think Shane even we were at a bar one night, and I think he wanted to work it out, and I was so mad that he questioned my loyalty, especially because we grew up together, that I just thought, fuck you, and I didn't reconcile with him, and that might have been a bad move. Or with Rooster, the ad agency, they said, what are we going to do? Like, can we just say we're putting you on temporary leave? And I said, yeah, whatever works. I mean, if that makes you feel better. And maybe I should have said, no, dude, don't put me on temporary leave. It shows you don't support me. And I didn't do anything wrong. But I didn't do that. I just said, go ahead. Anyway, it's fucking 2 a.m. You're in my salon where I like to drink Makers and watch Tucker. And I'm usually drunk at this time of night, so you're not really getting the most astute observations. And that's kind of where we're at now. But really, at the end of the day, it's just about fighting. And if you're not fighting, you're acquiescing, and you're acquiescing into someone else's narrative, someone else's story.
With InfoWars, as you know, it was a coordinated thing between Tim Cook and Zuckerberg, where they both personally made the decision to can Alex Jones, and the left celebrated. There was an uproar of, applause and cheers, which is quite ironic because they're celebrating giving billionaires and big corporations the power to decide who has free speech and who doesn't, to decide what you can read on the internet and what you can't read. The left always used to be against concentration of power within corporate hands. Now, apparently, as long as they're censoring the right people, that's completely fine, and they'll not only accept it, they'll celebrate it. Could come the day where it happens to them, and we've had a lot of left-wing Facebook pages like anti-police brutality, anti-war pages banned by Facebook, but the blowback has been nowhere near the extent to how the right has been deplatformed.
To have the establishment misrepresent who you are, create a straw man to then ban you and then take you down, I don't see that as a position of strength. I see that as a real position of weakness, and I think it's going to backfire. Because most people don't do this one time. And in the final equation, InfoWars and what I've done has we have changed the course of human destiny in a big way. And so if I did one of those things in my life, I would feel fulfilled, like I had really done what I was supposed to do. So I intend to continue on. I continue to try to change the world, but my dream is to be able to stop what I'm doing in the next 5 years or so, because you can't do this forever.
The future is, we will all be deleted. That's the future.
I feel like I'm still in the moment, almost. I feel like I've been in the moment for like a year now, really. It's just, resistance is victory. Resistance is victory, and no matter what happens, if we give up, then that's a loss. So as long as we keep fighting, we'll keep having victory. Who knows if Facebook and Twitter and everything will ever actually, open up their platform for free speech and to let conservatives back on, or who knows in 5 years, watching this documentary, or 10 years, you ask me that question, and people are like, well, what's social media, right? So who knows if it's even relevant in 10 years from now.
The problem with all of this censorship, and I could argue it's fascism, religious puritanism, because we're really going back in time. We're going back to Victorian England, and the left is Queen Victoria, and she's not amused. And the problem with that is, you'll be the first to go, guys.
I've got hope because Generation Z is generally quite conservative. They are more pro-free speech generally. They're sick of being told what they can and can't say, what they can and can't read. Obviously it's in their DNA to rebel against that as young people.
So yeah, they delete me off Twitter. My name still trends on Twitter regularly. Obviously I don't get the same opportunity to give a counter argument to the people who are there slandering and lying about me, which is what their intention is. But the public also see that. They see the censoring. They don't like it. So yeah, it makes you could say it's making our job harder to reach the people. But people want to hear us more because of that.
A lot of people in their very early 20s, most of the messages I get on Twitter and places like that are from very young people who are my fans, who are supporting me. So there is a very young audience out there.
And I think that Alex Jones, despite what people may think of him, right, I personally love him, he really is a pioneer for this movement because he warned of all of these things. Many years ago, he warned that this would be taking place, right? He warned that these social media companies would become too powerful. And I really do believe that Alex Jones is going to be, the pioneer or, one of the leading individuals who comes up with a solution for conservatives or people who are victims of social media censorship. And I think that, we're gonna be seeing a lot of Alex Jones. I don't think that the left is going to be successful in silencing Alex Jones, right? Because his whole thing is there is an info war. And by banning Alex Jones from the internet, the left just reaffirms his entire argument. There is an information war. And it just makes people want him more, right? When you ban something, or you tell people you can't watch this, you can't hear this, you can't see this, this is bad, it makes people want it more.
Speaking of that, it's Sunday. It's my Sunday show. I've got to go live here in a few minutes, so I've got to go.